Central was packed with future ghetto stars from both sides of the color bar and varying divisions therein. It was also packed with soon-to-be dead gang members. Many who were there in 1981 have since been gunned down in the street battles. Others were sent to prison and killed there. Few, very few, have lived since then in any prolonged state of peace. Who became ghetto stars? There was Devil from Shotgun Crips, Fish from Outlaw 20 Bloods, Fat Rat from 5 Deuce Hoover, Roscoe, a Samoan from Park Village Compton Crips, Taco from Great Street Watts, Mac from 11 Deuce Hoover, and Cam from Black P, Stone Bloods. Each is of the highest level of banger. Even if any of them do not subscribe to banging today, their mark is firmly planted in their respective hoods. Sundays in Juvenile Hall were perhaps the most exciting day of the week. Not only was it visiting day, but it was church day. No religious strings whatsoever were attached to church. On the contrary, church was a place to see the girl prisoners and to see all your homies who were in different units. Chicanos and Americans went to Catholic service, and New Africans went to the Protestant service. This was to be my first church service, and seemingly everyone knew that I had been shot, though all sorts of rumors had muddied the waters about my well-being. I readied myself for my first appearance the night before by pressing my county khaki pants with soap and laying them under my mattress. I had procured a fresh baby blue sweatshirt that had a Central Juvenile Hall emblem on the front. I carefully cut the sleeve off at the elbow to my first cast. This too I slid under my mattress for pressing. My hair had been freshly cornrowed, and I had some new bubblegum tennis shoes. The next morning, I got dressed with all the enthusiasm of a student on the first day of school. Unit EF was the last to arrive at church that morning. With all the other units already seated and situated so the staff could halfway keep an eye on them, we came through the door. Juvenile Hall policy dictates that all unit movement be conducted in columns of 2 and in silence. D and I headed up our unit. When we came through the chapel doors, all heads turned to catch our entry. Standing in the doorway briefly, D and I scanned the pews like lords looking upon their subjects. "There you go, that's Monster Kody in the cast," said a faceless voice. "Damn, cuz got a blue cast," said another. After being told by staff where to sit, we moved in and took our seats. D pointed out friend and foe. Because we weren't allowed to talk or communicate to each other, our hatred and happiness were transmitted by stares and quick hand gestures. Only when the preacher began the service did the whispers cease. I was the talk of the hall. Later in the week, I met Sam from Shotgun. The Shotguns had recently killed a rolling 60s who was going with a female from the 60s named Goldie. I had never met her. He said he had heard about me being shot from her. He then went to his room and brought back a letter for me to read. It was from Goldie. It was really a paltry little letter that ended with, "Oh yeah, my homies killed that tramp Monster Kody last night." My heart skipped a beat when I read that. It was one thing to hear someone say it. Words spoken could be shaken off with a laugh or some other move that didn't make the effect of what's said last too long. They were just words in the air, but seeing it written was another thing. Unlike threat legends of getting killed spray painted on walls, this was written in the past tense, as in already happened. It was a bit eerie. I quickly folded up the letter and gave it back to Sam. I didn't comment on what she wrote, but I did store her name for future reference. When I woke up the next morning, I was in terrible pain. My stomach was in knots. No sooner had I gained consciousness than I started vomiting. I tried to eat, but I could not keep any food down. This went on most of the day. D said that I should go to the nurse, but I declined. The next morning, I was vomiting blood, and the whites of my eyes had turned yellow. That evening, I turned myself in to the nurse, who in turn alerted the doctor. One look at me and he called for an ambulance. I was rushed back to the USC Medical Center, also known as General Hospital, and operated on immediately. When I woke up the next day, I was in the same old pain of 3 weeks ago. The same tubes running here and there, the same machine next to my bed. My stomach once again looked like twisted and torn railroad tracks. The only difference now was that I was chained to the bed by my ankle. 2 days went past and I got a visit from my mom. We talked a bit, but when I showed her my stomach, she left. 2 weeks later, I was transported back to Central. When I got there, the place was in an uproar. Staff members were running here and there, obviously stressing. I quickly learned that a friend of mine had escaped. Q-Tip from Gear Gang had broken out. I was happy for him. This was Valentine's Day, 1981. I was placed in the infirmary until my stitches were removed. On that day, February 21st, I walked around the corner from the infirmary to the connecting unit, R&R, receiving and release, to exchange the hospital gown I had been wearing for facility clothing. Coming in were Little Monster, Raton, and Killer Rob. All three looked haggard and distraught. "What's up?" I asked Little Bro with a light hug. "Oh man, we think Little Capone snitched about the murders," he said in a very tired voice. They were still dressed in street clothes. "Bro had one of my Pendletons." "Y'all in here for murder?" I asked, looking from one to the next. "Yup," Raton replied. "I think he told about some shit you did too," Killer Rob said, "because the police was asking me about some bodies left in the 60s. Killer was speaking as if he were simply saying, "Yo man, your shoe is untied. Murders were that commonplace." "Yeah, well, dude don't know shit about me, because I wouldn't steal a hat with that fool," I spoke up, trying to put a good face on this dreary news. "Scott," the staff member called out, so both Little Monster and I went to the desk. He was referring to Bro, so he could be dressed in, but since we were both Scott and we both needed to be dressed in, he let us go in together. Stepping into the next room, we rapped about family, mom, and our neighbors. When I took off my gown, Bro said, "Damn, they fucked you up," and broke into tears. Through sobs and sniffs, he said that he had never seen me that skinny. We talked some more, and then I was sent to my unit. Because Bro, Killer, and Raton had murders, they had to go to solitary for a week. When their 7 days were up, only Raton and Little Monster remained. Killer had been transferred to the county jail because he turned 18 while in solitary. Also captured were Little GC, Al Capone, and Little Capone. Slim had gotten away. Bro was put in Unit MN across the field. Mom came the following week to see us both. The week after that, I tore my cast off in the shower and began lifting weights. When I went to court for a preliminary hearing, I was transferred to the county jail to be housed in the notorious juvenile tank. To this day, I still don't know why I was sent to the county jail. I hadn't even gotten into a fight yet, but this was par for the course for my entire life. It only served to irritate me further by allowing me no stability. I was a bit uncertain about LA County after hearing so much over the wire, especially because of my weakened physical condition. Fighting now would be quite a task. It took an entire evening for me to be processed into LA County. I arrived at 3100, the juvenile tank, after midnight. Now I'm told the juvenile tank is located in the old hall of the Justice Building, but in 1981 it was still in the new jail. All the lights were out when I came on the tier, and there was no noise, no sound. With an almost terrifying clang, my cage was open and I was told by the deputy to step in. Once locked behind the steel bars, I surveyed my surroundings. There were 2 tiers consisting of Abel Row and Charlie Row. Each tier had 26 cages on it. Each cage was single occupancy, very small, very dirty, and very cold. There was a toilet and sink in each cage, as well as a light that the soldier cop controlled. There was a rickety desk that hung halfway off the wall with no stool. I didn't remember seeing anyone awake or moving in any of the 7 cages I passed to get to mine. I was number 8. This was a ploy, but I knew nothing of it then. "Blood, where you from?" a voice shouted from the back of the lower tier. "Abel Row." Its sharpness startled me momentarily, but my instincts overrode any delay in responding. "North side, 8-Tray Gangster Crip." "Oh, blood," said another voice from an opposite direction. "We got one." And then, as if from the adjacent cage to my right, number 9, "We gonna kill your motherfucking ass in the motherfucking morning, crab." "Fuck you slob ass motherfuckers. This ET motherfucking G, fool. We'll see about that in the morning. Let the gates be the bell." Another fine mess I got myself into. Shit, I had no idea of how I'd get myself out of this one. Amazingly, I never once thought of ranking out, pleading, or otherwise backing down. Even in the face of insurmountable odds, I would rather die fighting than live as a coward. I made my bed and lay there staring at the roaches gathering on the desktop. I dozed off, but I don't know when. I was awakened by the heavy sound of moving metal cages being opened and closed. I quickly got up and put on my tannies and stood ready. Abel roll was being let out first. Looking down over the tier, I saw a crowd gathering along the wall. Most faces were staring up into mine. Though no teeth were being shown, no happiness lives here. I didn't know any face down in the crowd, and none, I guess, knew me. No one said anything to me, nor did I say a word to them. They began to file out to what I guessed to be the chow hall. Charlie roll was next. Let the gates be the bell was fresh in my mind. So it was best, I thought, to tie into him immediately. Charlie roll, watch your gates. Gates opening, the soldier cop called down the tier. With some effort, the cage door began to slide open. When there was enough room to squeeze out, I made it through and was on the tier in what I reasonably thought was Blood Hood.